He didn't say anything, not one word, just looked at me. No anger, no disbelief, no begging for clarity, just stillness, like the kind right before a storm breaks over a field. And then he turned, walked out of the kitchen, his footsteps even, steady, no slam of the door, no shouting, no demands, just the sound of his mug settling onto the counter and the low creak of the stairs beneath his weight. I stood frozen with the coffee pot still tilted in my hand. It dripped once, twice onto the burner. I thought he'd come back, say something, ask me how long it had been going on or why I said it that way. Hell, I don't even know why I said it like that. I meant to wait, to explain, not blurt it out mid-breakfast like a dare. If you're listening to this story and haven't subscribed yet, please do. It helps more than you know. And if you're watching, tap the like button. It's a quiet way to say, keep going. I heard the closet door open upstairs, then the zip of a bag. He moved like he already knew what to take, like he'd thought this through a long time ago. I blinked hard, my throat tight, trying to play it backward in my head. What did I think would happen? That he'd scream, cry, fall apart? But no, he came down, keys in hand, still in the t-shirt he'd slept in. No shoes, no pause, just walked past me like I wasn't even there. The door clicked shut behind him. I stood there for a full minute, maybe more, staring at the trail of muddy water his boots had left on the tile the night before. The silence roared in my ears. It's not like I didn't know what I'd done. But I thought I had time. Time to spin it, fix it, maybe even lie my way back into something resembling what we used to be. But the way he walked out, there was no pause, no second glance, like a chapter already closed. When I finally moved, I ran to the front window. His truck was already gone. No note, no message, just gone. And the worst part? He took nothing that would tell me where he'd go. No laptop, no paper trail, not even his phone charger, just the bag, and whatever silence he'd been carrying for months. By the second day, the silence wasn't just loud, it was surgical. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone pressed to my chest, rereading my own text like maybe I'd missed something. Something small, some sign he was still watching from a distance, that maybe he was angry, hurt, whatever, but still reachable, still mine. But nothing moved, not a single ping, not a flicker of those 3 dots. The bed still smelled like his aftershave. His boots were gone. The blue flannel he always left crumpled over the back of the chair. Gone, too. The drawer where he kept his wristwatch and old receipts, empty. Even the extra charger he always forgot was missing. I checked our bank account, the joint one we never used except for household bills. It was at 0, not drained, emptied, properly, no overdraft. No freeze, just gone. His personal account login didn't work anymore. I tried the old password twice before realizing what I was doing. Before realizing I no longer had access, I texted his brother next. Just one line. Have you seen him? No reply. I called. Voicemail. Tried again the next morning. Still nothing. Then I called his work, some small software firm he barely talked about, always shrugging it off like it didn't matter. The receptionist answered with that fake corporate cheer, then faltered when I asked if he was in. I'm sorry, he's on leave, she said. Indefinite. He didn't mention it? My stomach turned. No, he didn't. I wandered into his home office, my hands trembling. All that was left was the empty desk, the faint outline of his monitor on the wall from years of sun bleaching. No cables, no books, no notebooks. Nothing on the shelf except a single sealed envelope. My name in his handwriting, small and precise, the kind you only get from people who grew up writing with care. I stared at it for a long time, my heart racing. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Because in that moment, something hit me harder than the silence, harder than the fact that he hadn't screamed, hadn't slammed doors or cursed me out. He hadn't left in rage. He'd left in rhythm, like he'd rehearsed it, every move precise, every exit pre-written. And I was just now catching up to the first step. I held the envelope like it might burn through my fingers. 3 days of pacing past it, of lying awake at night, trying to convince myself he'd overreacted, that he was just licking his wound somewhere and would come back once the shock wore off. But the envelope was still there, sitting on the desk like a quiet verdict. When I finally opened it, the paper inside whispered as it unfolded, like even it didn't want to be heard. The first page stopped me cold. Legal header, firm name, formal tone, a declaration of financial separation, filed and notarized, dated 6 months ago. 6 months before I ever opened my mouth. My name printed under the term non-contributing party. I scanned the language twice, my chest tightening. It was real, filed, accepted. Next came the title transfers, our shared SUV, the joint savings we'd built in our 20s, even the lake house we used to visit once a year just to argue by the fire, all of it now under his name or funneled through some holding LLC with a quiet, forgettable name. But the LLC's address was the real hit. It was our old P.O. box, the one I stopped checking years ago because I hated mail. I flipped faster. Another document, a deed adjustment, the lake house. I hadn't realized the refinance we signed last fall, just a blur of documents I barely skimmed, had clauses that shifted ownership entirely after a 80-day window if one party failed to contribute. He'd let the clock run. I hadn't paid attention. There was more. An NDA. My brother's name. His signature. Witnessed. Dated. Just over 5 months ago. I sat back like something hit me. My ears started to buzz. Why would he need an NDA? And then I turned to the final section, a timeline. Every entry was dated, time-stamped, written in that same quiet handwriting. Sept 12, Emma's tone shifted weekend plans, dismissive, evasive. Oct 4, Emma mentioned needing space. Texted Ben at 11:42 p.m. I watched from hallway. In Ov 2, heard laughter through guest room wall, confronted neither. Deck 19. Overheard full conversation, recorded backup, labeled 12 Ben confirms MP3. Each line stripped emotion away, just facts, no accusations, no colors, clinical, cold. Then the last entry, March 14th, Emma stated, "It's your brother's. At least he's a real man." Trigger phrase confirmed. Trigger phrase, my stomach nodded. That's when I realized he hadn't just left because of what I said. He'd been waiting for me to say it, and I walked right into it with my mouth wide open. He took his glasses off after the second page, rubbed his eyes, then leaned back in the stiff leather chair like something bitter had settled on his tongue. "Let me get this straight," he said, thumbing through the folder I'd handed him like it was a bomb someone forgot to defuse. "You signed the adjustment clause on the lake house refinance?" I crossed my arms. "I mean, we signed a stack of things." He said it was just paperwork to lock in the lower rate. "Just paperwork," he echoed, low. Then he pulled a yellow highlighter from his pen cup and circled something on page 5. This clause here, it says, "In the event of non-contribution over 1/4, full title reverts to the managing partner within 80 days, unless contested in writing." My face burned. He never said that. "No," he said dryly, "because he didn't have to. It's in black and white. And your initials are right next to it." He flipped to the next page. "The LLC owns the house now. Langford Holdings, Delaware registered. He listed himself as sole manager and executed the buyout clause 6 weeks ago. And your brother," he held up the signed NDA, "agreed in writing to the timeline. That's damning." I sat back hard, the chair creaking under me. "But I didn't know." He cut me off. Not cruelly, just tiredly. "He did. That's the thing. He knew what you were doing before you even said it, and instead of confronting you, he created legal distance. Quietly, legally, precisely." I looked at the floor, my pulse banging in my neck. What do I even do? He didn't answer right away, just tapped the folder gently against his knee. "I've handled spiteful exes," he said finally, "greedy ones, violent ones. But this," he exhaled, "this isn't vengeance, this is architecture." He didn't leave a mess. He left a blueprint. "And you walked right into it." I tried to blink the heat from my eyes, but my throat was closing fast. "You didn't think he'd notice?" He asked, voice quieter now. "Didn't think he'd care?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I hadn't thought at all. I drove to the DMV to renew my tags. The clerk scanned my plate, paused, then tilted her head. "Ma'am, this vehicle's registered under a corporate name now." "What?" I leaned in. "No, it's mine. Emma Langford. It's always been mine." She pointed at the screen. "Transferred 6 weeks ago. New title issued. Langford Transit Group, LLC." I stood there like someone had kicked the breath out of me. That name. It was the same LLC on the lake house. The same quiet, forgettable name he'd tucked into the refinance documents I never bothered reading. By the time I reached the parking lot, my fingers were shaking as I opened my banking app. The savings account we'd always used, where I thought we were setting aside for Europe next year, was gone. Not closed recently, closed 2 months ago. Archive only. I checked the statements. All funds transferred to a high security trust account. His name only. My throat went dry. I used to roll my eyes at him for all his business experiments. Called them hobbies. He'd work late into the night on spreadsheets and platform builds, always quietly, always carefully, like it mattered more than I could see. I never asked, just smiled thinly, called him a dreamer. But now, that LLC, it wasn't just some side project. It was filing taxes. It had a commercial address. It had licenses. It had standing. And apparently, it had power. I raced home, logged into our shared insurance portal to check something, anything, and found another closed door. Wedding ring insurance? Canceled. Policy lapsed at his request. 3 months ago. I hadn't noticed. I hadn't thought to check. I'd assumed everything was automatic. My stomach turned as I reached into the file drawer for the prenup. I hadn't looked at it since the week before our wedding, when we laughed about it over wine and promises we meant. There, on page 6, was the clause: in the event of marital infidelity, verbally acknowledged by either party, joint marital assets default to party uninvolved in the breach with immediate effect. And there, stamped at the bottom, was a copy of the transcript. My words, pulled from that moment in the kitchen, captured, transcribed, time-stamped. I'm pregnant, it's your brother's, at least he's a real man. My breath caught. I hadn't just heard him. I'd handed him everything. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He let me pull the trigger on my own life. And by the time I realized, the house wasn't shattering around me. It had already been dismantled piece by piece, mirror by mirror. I was just now noticing the glass was gone. I stared at the business card in my hand. Dave L. Keenan, founder and CEO, Keenan Systems. It had landed in our mail slot 2 days ago. No note, just the card. Same Dave who used to shuffle in on Saturday nights for poker and cheap beer in our basement, the one I used to call the human lullaby behind his back. Always slow to speak, slow to laugh, with those wire-rimmed glasses and weird stories about firewall breaches I never cared to understand. I called him. It rang twice. He picked up. This is Dave. Hey, it's Emma. Langford. A pause, then a measured. Emma, what can I do for you? I got your card. My voice cracked, then steadied. I wanted to ask, why would you send it to me? I didn't. That stung. But it showed up. I handed it to someone. If it made it to you, that was a choice he made. My stomach dipped. Look, was he working with you? Dave gave a small breath, almost a laugh, but not quite. Emma, he helped us restructure the entire backbone of our compliance systems last year. Legal frameworks, tech stack audits, silent governance. He didn't just work with us, he built our risk arm. I blinked. But he's not even in cybersecurity. Isn't he? Dave said. Funny. We thought he was the sharpest systems mind we'd met in 5 years. Quiet guy, asked good questions, never bragged, just delivered. I hung up before the shame swallowed me whole. Then I called Seth, another name I used to mock, the one who wore hoodies to dinner parties and always brought homemade kombucha that tasted like vinegar and regret. I'd joke that if my husband ever needed a lesson in failure, he could just shadow Seth for a week. He answered on speakerphone, the hum of a busy warehouse behind him. Emma? Yeah, sorry, do you have a minute? Sure, what's going on? Did he invest in your company? Invest? Seth actually laughed. Emma, he saved it. What do you mean? He came in when our logistics model was falling apart, quietly backed our second round, connected me to 2 partners, redesigned our supply tracking system in 1 weekend. Didn't want a title, just equity. We're expanding this year because of him. I couldn't speak. Honestly, Seth added, voice lower, he was the only one in our circle who ever saw beyond what things looked like. The words sat heavy on my chest. All those evenings I rolled my eyes when he said he had poker night or meeting with the guys, the notebooks he scribbled in while we watched TV, the endless Google sheets he kept open, the calls I ignored because his voice was too soft, too slow, too steady to ever sound important. He hadn't been wasting time. He'd been building a kingdom, quietly, patiently, and every man I dismissed had become a brick in it. While I was busy playing queen on a board I didn't even understand. He'd already left the game. And he took the whole castle with him. I wore a blazer I hadn't touched since our anniversary dinner. Hair straightened, makeup neat, not for him. At least that's what I told myself. It was for presence, for composure, for the illusion that I was still someone who could walk into an office and command attention. The address was in the district, new building, all glass and brushed metal. Langford Advisory wasn't on the exterior signage, but it was etched on the directory in elegant serif. Suite 14B. The receptionist stood when I entered, too warm, too rehearsed. "Hi there, how can I help you?" "I'm looking for—" I hesitated, then steadied. "Mr. Langford. I'm his wife. Emma." Her smile didn't drop, didn't shift. "Oh, you must be Mrs. Langford. I've heard your name." Her tone was pleasant, but the pause before my name said everything. "I need to speak with him. It's personal." She glanced down at her screen, then tapped once, twice. A flicker of something unreadable passed over her face. "I'm sorry. Mr. Langford doesn't take walk-ins. He consults remotely, appears only for scheduled meetings or as needed." "As needed?" I echoed. She folded her hands gently. "He prefers a low-contact model, selective engagement. Clients appreciate the focus." I felt the flush rise in my chest. "So when will he be back?" Her shrug was graceful, almost apologetic. "Hard to say. Sometimes he's in once a month, sometimes not for weeks." I stared past her at the sleek hallway behind the frosted glass. "Would you like me to leave a message?" I opened my mouth, then closed it, because I knew what that message would be, and I knew it wouldn't matter. "No," I said softly. "Just never mind." I turned before the tears could well up, not because I didn't want her to see them, but because I didn't want to admit what they meant. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't avoiding me. He'd simply moved on, like he'd planned every exit, every account, every thread of his old life, until the only door I could find led to a place I didn't recognize, a place where my name meant nothing, and where my presence wasn't even worth announcing. I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by half-open folders and coffee that had gone cold 2 hours ago. Everything had been combed through, legal printouts, insurance notices, even old birthday cards I once thought he forgot to sign. Nothing explained how complete his absence had become. So I opened my email, not the inbox I used every day, the one synced to my phone and packed with brand coupons and half-read newsletters. No, this was the old one, the account I hadn't logged into in over a year, the one we'd used back when we still planned vacations together, when he used to send me little restaurant links or hotel ideas just in case. Password reset, two-step authentication, a security question I had to guess twice. And there it was, buried in a sea of unread subject lines. Spousal contingency activation, request to acknowledge, sent 11 months ago. From his personal email, no marketing fluff, no filler, just a single sentence in the preview. I opened it with a numb click. The body was blank except for a simple attachment and one line, "Please review and acknowledge." The PDF opened without fanfare, just clean black text, centered legal header and all. At the top, notice of silent clause activation, Langford contingency protocol. Then the clause. In the event of verbal declaration of paternity outside of legal bounds, all joint assets default to signatory. Digital activation permissible by time-stamped audio transcription or verified written record. Below that, a chain of system logs, time-stamped, verified, and then, right at the bottom, audio trigger recorded, March 14th, 8:17 a.m. I'm pregnant. It's your brother's. At least, he's a real man. I covered my mouth with one hand, but the sound still escaped. Not a sob, not even a word, just breath, because it hadn't been a fight. It hadn't been a scream. It hadn't even been a confession. It had been a key, one I handed him myself, proudly even, and it unlocked everything. He didn't need to argue. He didn't need to catch me in the act. He just needed me to say it. And I had, loud and clear, I had spoken our marriage into termination, and his system had already been listening. The ballroom pulsed with warm light and quiet music, the kind that softens a crowd into pleasantries and photo ops. Waiters moved like shadows between round tables, lifting empty plates, refilling glasses. My dress itched under the weight of too many forced smiles. I was only there because someone on the committee had offered a last-minute seat, and I didn't have the pride to decline. It was the type of night he used to avoid, too loud, too curated, too full of people more interested in optics than impact. And yet, as the evening dragged on, I felt something shifting in the room, a subtle energy. People checking their programs, whispering toward the stage. Then the MC stepped forward. "Tonight," she said, smiling with reverence, "we're honored to recognize a silent investor, someone whose quiet support and vision allowed this program to survive its most difficult year, a man who doesn't ask for credit, but who always delivers it where it's due." A hush fell. Chairs turned. "Please welcome Mr. Langford." It was like the air got sucked out of the room. He stepped out from behind the curtain, calm and measured, wearing a charcoal suit that fit better than any I'd ever seen him in. No tie, just confidence. His eyes scanned the room once, not searching, not performing, just present. People clapped before they even understood why. I stood. I didn't mean to. My legs just moved. My voice came out smaller than I expected. "You left me nothing." He turned, looked at me. But it wasn't the look of a man recognizing a memory. It was the look you give someone you don't know. Polite, detached. "You told me I wasn't enough," he said, his voice steady. I made sure I wasn't. Just like that. No cruelty, no gloat, just a mirror. I opened my mouth, but whatever words I had dissolved into the hum of resumed applause. People weren't watching me anymore. They were watching him. Board members, donors, executives, each one leaning in, shaking his hand, making room. No one asked who I was. No one remembered I'd come with a +1 that canceled last minute. In the space of a breath, he'd erased me, not through malice, but through motion, through becoming. And I realized something colder than loneliness. He didn't just leave me, he outgrew me, silently, completely. And the room knew it because they turned toward him with admiration and turned away from me like I'd never mattered. I knocked 4 times before accepting what was in front of me. The apartment door stood half open, like whoever had left didn't bother to lock it behind them. Inside, dust patterns on the floor marked where furniture used to be. His couch, that ugly side table he claimed was mid-century, the lamp I once joked belonged in a morgue. All of it. Gone. Even the crooked picture frame with the photo of us from that beach trip years ago. Gone without a trace. A single wire hanger dangled in the hallway closet. Empty cabinets. The fridge unplugged, ajar. Mail slot stuffed with junk and a final envelope marked, "Account closed." His trust fund had been cashed out. I checked, called the bank we both knew, asked to speak with someone, anyone, about the movement in his accounts. The woman on the line paused when I gave his name. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Mr. Langford has removed all third-party access. We no longer discuss his finances with anyone but him directly." I hung up before the shame cracked through my voice. I sat on the apartment's bare floor for nearly an hour. No sounds, no signs, just the ghost of someone who didn't want to be found. He was gone. My last connection. My last, maybe. The one I thought might still be reckless enough, soft enough, stupid enough to pick up the phone if I begged. I drove home in silence. No music, just the road and the sound of one by one, doors closing. When I walked in, a letter was waiting. No stamp, no return address. Just slid under the door like a message no one wanted to sign. The envelope was blank, sealed clean. Inside, one sheet, cream paper, no greeting, no flourish, just one sentence typed, "Real men clean up after their own messes. Good luck." Below it, a signature, not even a full name. Just the letter L. I stared at it until the words blurred, until the air felt too thick to swallow. There were no more calls to make. No hands to hold, no illusions to feed. They were both gone. And I was still here, not the victim, not the wronged, just the echo of a lie that I had mistaken for power. Now hollow, now irreversible.